Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Guru Devo Maheshwaraha, Gurureva Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Chinmayam Vyapyat Sarvam, Trilokyam Sacharacharam, Tatpadam Darshitam Jena, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Tvameva Mata Chapita, Tvameva Bandhuscha Sakha, Tvameva Vedya Dravidam, Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva, Tvameva Sarvam Mama Deva Deva. Jai Guru. Om Sahana Bhavatu, Sahana Bhunaktu, Sahaviryam Karavavai, Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. So we're in chapter 9, verse 22. And Mark is going to endeavor to do the Sanskrit from the transliteration tonight. So give it a shot, see how it goes.
Okay. Ananyas chintayanto mam ye janapaya usyate tesam nitapi yutanam yoga kasmam brahmam yaham.
And the English?
To those men who worship me alone, thinking of no other, to those ever self-controlled, I secure for them that which is not already possessed by them, yoga, and preserve for them what they already possess, kshema.
Yes. So again, what we've been doing is talking about this distinction between those who worship the devas, meaning the presiding principles over human activity. And they come and go, up and down, meaning everything that we get is transitory. Everything, without exception. But here Krishna says those who worship me. This doesn't mean worshiping Krishna is better than Lord Shiva or Jesus or anybody else. Remember, when Krishna says me, he's in a full state of yoga. He's talking about the self in you and me. So our earlier forms of worship is to think of God as other. But as we mature in our practice, we begin to see, oh, those are just the masks that God wears. Where is God? I am Atma Brahma. This self is Brahman. Tattvamasi, you are. So the yogi not only comes to see the self as that witnessing consciousness, but the woman or man of realization has developed that gift, that capacity to allow the mind to revel in the self, to let go of everything. Let the mind come home to its source. We have terms like Atmaramana, reveling in the self. Brahmananda rasa, those who have the juice or the taste of the bliss of Brahman. And this is where the Guru can be of help. Because if we have the capacity to tune up to the Guru, and the Guru is one who is not only a full knower of the Supreme, but who has retired into the Supreme, we get what Swamiji used to call a borrowed glory. We get a taste, deep emptiness. And as we begin to own it for ourselves, we see, oh, it was a trick. The Guru was showing me who I am. And then we cultivate that parama prema. Prema is love, not love for humans, love for the infinite. But the supreme love, parama prema, is being able to revel in the self. Now, you either see the self or you don't. It's like a zero. It's like one of these funny picture puzzles in the funny papers. You either see the bunnies or you don't. But how deeply the mind can revel in Brahman, oh, that's like trying to come to the highest number. There's no end to that. And deep abidance in the self is not necessarily accomplished through will and effort, because if you're making efforts, you're not even yet a jnani, a man or woman of realization. But we may come in contact with great souls like Ramana Maharshi, like Anandamayi Ma, where when we're in their presence, they show us this is what a human being is capable of. Inspires us to be. So you not only want to be a full knower of the Supreme, but who has retired into the Supreme. And it's not about the God wrath. That means nothing. Real teaching is done in silence. And if we're inspired to commit to the time, keep turning the mind inward to let go, let go, let go. This is Parama Prema. Then here Krishna uses these two terms which are technical. yoga, and kshema. He provides for us that which is desirable. What do we mean by this? If I get the car, how am I going to feel? Happy. If I get the partner, how am I going to feel? Happy. If I have a baby, how am I going to feel? Happy. If I get a new house, how am I going to feel? Happy. Yoga says, okay, but those are all mediated experiences. Nothing wrong with them. They're just fundamentally impermanent. Why not just go for the happiness, which is who you are? Now, because when we are abiding in the self, the mind is no longer in a state of himsa, violence. We're not trying to beat up the world. We're not fighting anyone or anything. Then to a tremendous degree, not always, the circumstances of our lives start to mellow out a whole lot. Because we're not sending out violence. I must have it this way. I can't have it that way. And who do they think I am? So here we have happiness comes from Atmaramana, reveling in the self. And then life starts to work in a very intuitive way. We get the yoga, that which is, how did he define it here? Read the English part of it again. The stuff that is to be attained and secures that which we already have. That's not exactly how he says it.
Secure for them that which is not already possessed, yoga, by them, and preserve. Okay.
Yes. So, in other words, things just come our way. We're moving with the flow of life. Now, listen carefully. It's all perfect, which is different than I'm getting what I want. Part of experiencing this divine perfection is this giving up of our insistence. So ultimately, when we have gone for the happiness, not the medium that we think is going to give it to us, paradoxically, a lot of the good stuff of life starts to show up in our lives. We lose the fear of financial insecurity. We lose the discomfort of social interaction. No longer concerned or worried about what other people think of us or what we think of other people. So we get the benefits. Life starts to move smooth. And if calamity happens, we meet it with serenity. Any thoughts on this? Next verse.
Jim,
Yes.
So when you say effortless, like how does that work? Like, what does that? Because even if you're very calm and peaceful, like, wouldn't you be making some effort, like in your work, for example?
The equipment will always work. That's different than what we call kartavya. It's a difficult word to translate. It's when we have an insistence. I must have this in order to be happy.
So, like the inner pulling rather than like the outer.
It's we start to have an expressive movement into the world rather than an acquisitive, greedy, impoverished view. The ego runs through life where there's just never enough. I need more. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So for the yogi, of course they work, but they work for the joy of expression, of creativity, out of the love, service for other people. So why would you work tirelessly? My God, did that man work? Answered every letter that was written to him, wrote 40 books.
So how would you call that effortless?
Because he did it just without any effort.
Maybe instead of the word effort is struggle.
Yeah, that'll work without struggle.
Hmm.
That's excellent. Thank you.
Yeah. It kind of all came naturally without like, the fighting.
If you watch a child at play, they're working. Kids with wooden spoons banging on the pots and pans, having a grand old time. But it's not ego prompted. It's not, I want everybody to see what a great drummer I am, or I'm going to make a whole lot of money with drumming. Am I going to be the most important drummer in the world? No, this is just fun. The yogi moves through life with this naturalness, spontaneity, living from a place of intuition. They're out of control, the best sense of the word. I remember talking to this fellow, and he had a business plan for life. At this age, he wanted to accomplish this, and at that age, he wanted to accomplish that, and then, he's hit all his targets on his business plan for life. I have no idea what's going to happen from moment to moment. My idea is I'm the ball bearing in God's pinball machine. Having no idea what's going to happen next. And no concern for it. No concern. When we have learned to set aside the raga and the devesha, I must have it this way, I'll never have it that way, then we begin to live from the intuition. This place of deep, deep wisdom. And then the equipment starts to become the hand of God in the world. I love the way the Master Jesus said. He said, I of myself do no thing. It is the Father within that doeth the work. It's complete emptiness, so he could be a vehicle. But he worked. And meditate about it, pray about it, see if you can understand the nuance of it.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean being a piece of stone where you do nothing. It doesn't mean that at all.
It's very helpful. Thank you.
So frequently I will tell students, You have nothing I want. That can be very disquieting if they're people who have gone through life with transactional relationships. You can't buy the knowledge. You can't do something to manipulate me to get my attention. You have nothing I want. Yet I get great joy in seeing people wake up. It's fun. It's a paradox. All right, next verse.
Yepi yan yadevata bhakta yajante shraddha ayantiva tepi mameva kaunteya yajant yavidhipurvakam. Even those devotees who, endowed with faith, worship other gods, worship me alone, O son of Kunti, but by the wrong method.
Yes. So here's a very interesting point. I have news for you. There is no such thing as worldly pleasure. So here when Krishna says people who worship other gods, it doesn't mean worshiping Shiva or Ayyappa or Jesus or Muhammad or anything like that. It means when I have invested my good, my idea of good in something in the world, I want to fall in love. I want to make $1 million. Whatever it is. And Krishna says, people who even go after these people, places, things in the world, actually, they're worshiping me. Meaning, when the mind extroverts with craving, it hurts. When the mind ceases its craving, the mind is happy. I have two ways of inducing the mind state free from craving. One, try to get what I want. When desire and object desire become one, the craving momentarily ceases. I got what I want. I think it's the $1 million. I think it's the boyfriend or girlfriend. I think it's the big house. But it's really the mind momentarily freed from the tyranny of craving. Meaning, it's a taste of myself. It's a kiss of the bliss of Brahman. So it's not worldly pleasure. It's my own self-nature. It's just mediated, done through a medium. Krishna says, you can do that, but it's just, I like to say, bad economy. 95 cents worth of work for a nickel's worth of pleasure. Why not go directly to happiness? In the beginning, vairagya, that desire to give up attachment to all enjoyments gained through the senses. Truth is, the world isn't bad. There's not worldly pleasure versus spiritual bliss. No, the world is completely void. It's completely neutral. And I can prove it to you. Some people like pickled herring, other people go, ugh. Some people like persimmons, other people go, ugh. Some people like heavy metal, other people go, ugh. Some people want to hear Beethoven. Go, oh, it's so boring. Ugh. Nobody gets absolutely pleasure out of the same objects. So the pleasure can't be inherent in the objects. Heavy metal can't be inherently pleasurable, or everybody would experience pleasure from it. Everybody experiences wetness and water. Everybody experiences heat and fire. Everybody experiences sweetness and sugar. But everybody doesn't experience happiness from the same objects. So what is going on? I determine what I think is going to make me happy. Then I go after it, which makes my mind hurt. Then when I get what I want, oh, look how smart I am. It's like this. It's like a kid who has a big piece of butcher paper and draws a picture of a carrot on it. And then he has a stick that's just a couple inches longer than his arm. And he's got this little head thing that he affixes it to. He puts it on. Then he starts running after the carrot that he created, that he decided is distant from him. And then a breeze comes up and he goes, ah, oh, I feel so happy. I've got what I want. That's what we do. The other one that's so famous. Why are you hitting yourself on the head with a hammer? Because it feels so good when I stop. I want this. Oh, I want it so badly. Oh, it hurts so bad. True story. This woman came to me, was talking about a relationship. She says, I know it's love because it hurts so bad. Cray, cray. Love doesn't hurt. Love is who you are. Longing hurts. So this is worshiping other gods. And Krishna here says, you think you're worshiping people, places, things, and conditions, but you're really worshiping me. You just don't know it. Meaning, what do I want? The mind abiding in the self. Krishna says, worship me by the correct means. What is the practice? Through a continuous and steady observation of the inherent impermanence of everything in this world, I learned to no longer invest in it in the way I may used to have done. And I turned my mind towards endeavoring to know myself, to abide in myself, until that Brahmananda rasa, till I begin to feel the juice, until I begin to have the taste. There's a Hebrew psalm, I'm forgetting the number. Is it 34? Taste and see the goodness of the Lord. Might be. So Christians who you sing that song at Mass during communion, they think, oh, they're talking about communion. No. Psalm came 1,000 years, or at least 500 years before the institution of communion, before Jesus came around. It's written by someone who knew what the taste of the goodness of the Lord was, meaning my own self nature. So this is worshiping Krishna by the proper means. Doesn't mean doing some puja to an idol. You can do that. Nothing wrong with that. Very important point. There is no such thing as worldly pleasure. There's only your mind coming home to yourself. We do it two ways. We either use a medium, people, places, things, and conditions, or we have an immediate experience. Let go. Come home. Any thoughts on this? All right, next verse.
Aham hi sarvan jnanam bhokta cha prahureva cha natu mama vijananti tat venati venata sattavantite. For I alone am the enjoyer in and the Lord of all sacrifices, but they do not know me in essence, and hence they fall, return to this mortal world.
So who is the ultimate enjoyer in all sacrifices? The reference here is to the yajna, the puja, the Vedic sacrifice, or the worship of the idol. What it means is, whenever I satisfy a desire, what is it that's happening to my mind? The mechanics are this. I determine what's dear to me, priya. Then I go about getting proximate to the object of desire, moda. Desire and object of desire become one. Pramoda, the point of pleasure. And the more I wanted it, and the more it satisfies my idea of what I want, the more intense the pleasure. But it's always temporary. I went to the symphony today and they played the symphonic dances from West Side Story. Oh, God, such beautiful music. And of course, West Side Story is based on Romeo and Juliet. It's about teenagers falling in love. It's intense, intense love. Then I can remember one Sunday there was a couple in our congregation that had been married for 60 years. My boss, Father Mark, had them stand up for a blessing. And I asked them, have you ever thought of divorce? And the wife said, divorce? No. Murder? Yes. And of course, everybody laughed because everybody could identify. That's what real relationship is. Scrub off your egos, either consciously or learn acceptance. You learn tolerance. But it's hard work. There's a place for us. That's movies. It's not life. You might have it at the very beginning for a few months, but it passes. Always it passes. So you're an expected mother. I promise you, you will experience an intensity of love you never knew you were capable of. That's how nature's done it. And believe me, you will have fear and frustration and anger. Comes with the package. My brother had 3 girls. And when all of them hit their teenage years, he was terrified that they would meet a boy that was like what he was at that age. He was a rascal. That's this world. Doesn't mean it's bad. But there is something that's pure, that's clean, that's infinite, it's sweet, it's endless in its capacity to satisfy. That's always available. That costs nothing. There's no preconditions for it. It's yourself. Next verse.
Anti Devrata Devan Pitrid Nityanti Pitridyantaha Bhutani Yanti Bhuteja Yanti Majadino Bimam. The worshippers of the devas or gods go to the devas. To the pitris or ancestors go to the ancestor worshippers. To the Bhutas or the elements go worshippers of the Bhutas. But my worshippers come unto me.
So here he's saying all these various ways. The devas, again, presiding principles over human activity. Or it could even mean the senses. Sometimes the devas means those who are involved in sensuality. Pitris means the ancestors. Here, from a subtler level, it means those who are attached to the past. those who want to preserve what the family has always done. I was watching a YouTube video of this. She's called the American Viscountess. She married an English aristocrat. And her father-in-law is the Earl of Sandwich. And that the Montagues had to give up their family seat in 1955. They lived there for like 600 years. They just couldn't afford to keep it up anymore. Now it's funny, the Earl was just fine. They had another big, huge country house that they lived in. But this gal, family seat, you know, and there's the photo paintings of all the earls. And it was a big deal for her. She was holding on to the past, holding on to family rituals. This is the way our people do things. My sister-in-law is a DAR. Do you guys know what a DAR is?
No.
You know, Mike, you're from.
Daughters of the American Revolution.
Yes.
Oh, cool.
Yes, Daughters of the American Revolution. Meaning these are families that can trace their ancestry back to revolutionary times. It's the closest thing we have to hereditary aristocracy, mostly in the East Coast in New England. Very, very snooty. This is ancestor worship. And the Buddhas, the elements, these are people who ultimately worship stuff. There's different examples of things that people can get attached to. People, places, things, and conditions. Here, those who worship me, meaning those who know where the pearl of great price is, as the Christian scripture says. When Jesus said, "My kingdom is not of this world," doesn't mean it's off in heaven someplace. It means I am in the world, but not of it. Kingdom of heaven is at hand. It's just not what you think it is. It's your own self nature. And the wise cultivate that. Practice yoga, union. Any thoughts on this? Next verse.
Patram pushpam phalam toyam yome bhaktya prayachati tadaham bhaktya upadamasnami prayatat manaha. Whoever offers me with devotion a leaf, a flower, a fruit, water, that I accept, offered by the pure-minded with devotion.
Very famous verse. So, what is it that I need to offer to the infinite? Not a ton of gold. Not a big temple. Not all my children. But whenever I'm in the act of devotion, just a leaf or a flower or water. Meaning, it's simply the heart's gesture of devotion. It's all that's necessary. All that is necessary. Here doesn't mean that there's an inherent value in poverty. Too many organizations, orders, take vows of poverty. I think it's a poor choice of words in English. I think it would be much better if we took vows of simplicity. Because out there in the world, no one thinks about money more than a poor person. They can't eat, they have no place to live. You're in social services, I'm sure you come in contact with this. People who are marginal, we call them. It's a big deal. But a yogi can choose to simplify their life. Why? It's just easier. You don't got a lot of craziness. Whatever you buy, you've got to pay for. And if you're going to pay for it, you've got to work to make the money to pay for it. And then if you've got stuff, then you've got to care for the stuff. Was it you that was telling me the story about the master who said, don't let the cat live in your house? No, there was someone else who was telling me this. So there was a disciple, and he went to his master, and he said, Master, do you have any final teaching for me before you die? And the master said, don't let the cat live in your house. This is something secret and esoteric. And then he went and talked to another friend of his master, another great guru. And said, oh, that was a teaching that was given to him by his guru. Don't let the cat live in your house. What does it mean? What does it mean? Oh, there's another very old Baba who knew your grandfather guru. Go ask him. Goes and asks and says, well, there was a guru who had mice in his house. Mice were eating through his garments and his books and things like that. So he decided to get a cat to kill the mice. No problem. But once he had a cat, he had to feed the cat, give the cat milk. So he went begging in the village in order to get milk for the cat. Finally, he figured out it would be easier if I just got a cow. Got a cow so we could get the milk to feed the cat that would kill the mice. Once he got the cow, he got to feed the cow. So then he had to start planting crops, grow some wheat to feed hay to feed the cow. So it was hard for him to do all these things. So the obvious thing for him to do was to get a wife. So we got a wife to help him in the house, to take care of the crops, to feed the cow so they had milk to feed the cat in order to deal with the mice. And in time, his sadhana was gone. There he was, a worldly man again. don't let the cat live in your house. So the import of the story, it's so easy to head down the road of entanglement with this world. Nothing wrong with it. But what will it do? It will take your time, money, and attention. Who's experienced that? And frequently, it taking your time, money, and attention will get in the way of you setting aside what you really wanted to do, which was sadhana. So keep it simple. Again, there's nothing inherently wrong or bad with stuff, or relationships, or cats. But it's entanglement further and further. I like that story. I think it's a good movie. All right, next verse.
Yatkaroshi yadash nasi yajuhosi dadasi yat yatapas pasyasi kaunteya tatkurushva madarpanam. Whatever you do, whatever you eat, whatever you offer in sacrifice, whatever you give in charity, whatever you practice as austerity, O Konteya, do it as an offering to me.
So here, what Krishna is suggesting is for us to sanctify our life. Who do you work for? Oh, I work for Facebook. No, you work for God. Who are your customers? Well, this person and that person and that. No, your customers are God. Who are you in relationship with? Oh, my husband, my wife, my boyfriend, my girlfriend.
But are you in relationship with God, or are you?
You can
God?
be. Who else is here? God is you, but God's everything.
Yeah.
The idea is to sanctify every dimension of your life. Again, in the Christian tradition, there's a wonderful little book called The Practice of the Presence by Brother Lawrence. Very simple, very simple guy. I think he was a cook, wasn't he, Mike? I think so. Yeah. And his whole practice was, how would I think? How would I speak? How would I act if the Master Jesus were here beside me? Or Lord Krishna, or Lord Shiva, or Swamiji, or Shirdi Sai Baba. It doesn't matter how you endeavor to shift your attention to holiness. Make every action a gift to God. It's a wonderful practice. It's a wonderful practice. Start our day. Good morning, God. This is Jim reporting for duty. What do you want me to do today? There was a priest, Father Michael Judge, who was the chaplain to the New York City Fire Department on 9/11. He was the first recorded death of 9/11. and he had a prayer. Lord, take me where you want me to go. Let me meet who you want me to meet. Tell me what you want me to say and keep me out of your way. It's a wonderful way to start your day with that kind of attitude. To sanctify, make sacred every activity of life. Christopher Isherwood, the great author, his guru was Prabhavananda. And Christopher Isherwood was gay and he fell in love with this younger man, this young fellow. And he didn't know what to do about this. So he goes to his guru and says, what should I do? The Swami thought for a moment and said, just see him as Krishna. So simple. All right, next one.
Subhash Subhavalairevam Moks Yaste Karmaban Haniya Sanyasya Yoga Yuktat Ma Vimukto Mamupaisyasi. Thus shall you be freed from the bonds of actions, yielding good and evil fruits, with the mind steadfast in the yoga of renunciation, and liberated, you shall come unto me.
So what do we mean by the yoga of renunciation, sannyasa yoga? I renounce the fruits of action. Earlier, Krishna said, thy right is to work alone, never to the results, never to the fruits. Those belong to the Lord. I renounce my identification with the sense of agency. Who is the agent? Look at it two ways. Guna and karma, qualities of mind, the force of the past. Or you can say Ishvara is the agent. But I, the individual, do nothing. It's not real. Turn it all over to God. Stay identified as the witness, the untouched, uninvolved witness. Just let life go by. Do your duty. See it for what it is, just this infinite play of the Lord. All right, I think we'll quit a little bit early tonight. And we'll take up again tomorrow, next week, and hopefully we can find. You've done a marvelous job chanting, Mark, but I know it's a struggle.
Thank you.
We'll end here then. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Shishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. So we will have class next week, even though it's the holiday weekend. I'll be in town.